Hey, it's me. All through history, spiritual effort has tried to bring true religion to people. Yet, along with that effort came something we'll call false religion. This false version pretends to be truth, but it's really not. If you look at the history of religion, you'll notice a clear direction, though sometimes it slips backward, moving from false religion to real religion. Right now, in these turbulent times, that direction toward genuine spirituality, I believe, is stronger than ever. A big difference between true and false religion lies in how much they stress obedience to authority. False religion puts a lot of importance on obeying some higher power. True religion, though, does not rely on obedience. It's based on freedom, on a willing and self-chosen action that grows out of true understanding. It wants people to act out of their own conviction, not out of fear or a wish to please or calm down some higher being or authority. Leaders of religion often emphasized obedience because they partly believed people were too wrapped up in their own desires to be safe if they were set free. So religion was turned into strict commands meant to protect society. On the surface, this sounds logical, but actually it isn't. Yes, it's true that humanity still has destructive impulses, but we can control them with laws and social rules. That's different from tying religion itself to strict obedience. By making you fear a stern God who must be obeyed, false religion encourages weakness, fear, and dependence, rather than genuine spiritual growth. From the work you've done on this path, you know we each have an inner child who wants to stay sheltered and generally avoid the tough parts of being an adult, like responsibility and independence. To that child, life looks easier if someone else makes choices and takes care of problems. But this attitude is harmful. While you might not see it at first, it can make you feel helpless because the authority figure, or God, you want to rescue you never truly shows up in that way. And that leads to resentment and a feeling that the world is unfair. You feel tricked, especially if you tried hard to obey all the rules, hoping to be rewarded with safety and happiness. And because God does not pay off this unhealthy attitude, you end up feeling cheated or see life as unjust. So false religion often plays on this unhealthy longing. It sets up rules and laws that make people feel powerless and childlike while encouraging fear, weakness, and a sort of quiet begging. Then the person sinks into shame and self-blame, which can sometimes become hatred, aimed both at themselves and at others. Inevitably, they rebel against this setup. Whenever someone seems very fearful, timid, and eager to please, there must also be a rebellion, perhaps hidden, but still there. You can't have one without the other. People cling to an image of themselves as good, but they think this goodness is a pass to avoid life's challenges or to get rescued by someone stronger, maybe a parent figure, maybe God. But hidden beneath that good image can be anger and aggression. On the other side, you might see people who seem super independent, hostile, or rebellious, denying all rules. Under that tough outer shell, though, they actually crave support and are furious they can't find it. They're ashamed to need anyone, so they hide it. Both these extreme types, or really any mix of them, trace back to early childhood experiences and to society's habit of linking religion with strict authority. Truly understanding where we are immature or out of balance, we see how our inner life doesn't match what we claim to believe on the outside. It's important to notice where a kind of false religion lies deep inside you, where you might use religious ideas to hide your desire to avoid growing up and taking charge of your life. You might consciously know that God is neither punishing nor demanding blind obedience, but emotionally, you might still act like a terrified child, hoping God will handle everything for you. Our old, unresolved emotional problems, plus the idea that religion means obey and be saved, have led many of us into these confused states of helplessness or bossy independence, or both. In all cases, we pretend we don't have the hidden qualities. The helpless side hides the anger and rebellion. The tough side hides the fear and neediness. If you can become aware of these distortions, you'll not only become stronger and happier, you'll also help rid the world of unhealthy religion so that real spirituality can grow. Obedience, as taught by false religion, doesn't fit with the idea that we are free. It can grow into our own divinity. If you remove blind obedience from religion and from your heart, you'll stop rebelling against the true love and wisdom that genuine religion offers. After all, real spirituality's main goal is to support you to be free, responsible, and strong, so that you don't sit around waiting for justice to be handed to you, but rather discover your own fairness, your own worth. At the same time, if you're clinging to your own helplessness, maybe in a way that feels secular or not religious at all, you still lock yourself into that childlike stance. False religion and this childlike stance go together, each feeding the other. So I invite you to look deep in your soul for the part of you that wants God to do your living, to make choices for you, and to produce results for you that you're actually strong enough to produce yourself, if only you allowed yourself to grow. Spot this attitude, which probably harms you more than you can imagine. It weakens you. It takes a real spiritual idea and turns it into a make-believe safety net. False religion does more harm to true religion than outright atheism, because it turns truth into a show, and it lets cynics say religion is just hypocrisy. So it's crucial to find the parts of ourselves that cling to a bigger authority out of fear. Now you may worry, how can I see this in myself? It doesn't really matter where you start. Look at a negative emotion: envy, bitterness, fear, helplessness, self-pity. As soon as you see these feelings, it'll be easier to spot how you act like a child in a spiritual sense. And even if you think, well, that's not me, keep an open mind and keep looking. If you truly want to find the truth, you will. You'll see how this childish stance is the source of your weakness and your fear. It's a stance you can replace with genuine strength. You realize that leaning on a higher authority to avoid effort and responsibility just makes you doubt yourself even more. This clingy way of relating to authority might be directed at the world in general, certain individuals in your life, or at a God you imagine. Once you start growing out of false religion and its imaginary God, you may feel a temporary emptiness. You may feel alone because the old false God is gone, while the true God isn't yet solid in your heart. At this stage, you may lose faith or doubt God's existence entirely. That's because you're letting go of the unhealthy crutch you've used for so long. And since that false crutch is indeed not real, you may think there's no God at all. As you cast off the illusion, despite feeling alone, a new, deeper power in you begins to sprout. At first, you may not notice it, but if you keep going and you don't let the lonely stage crush your spirit, you'll eventually feel more whole, strong, and in charge of your life. Only then will the false God finally fade and the true God, which is your own inner freedom, take root inside you. Ironically, the way to that real God is by accepting the loneliness that comes with giving up a childish dependence. Doing that acceptance helps you become the kind of being you want to be, free, responsible. With this, you may better understand why we look at things from a psychological approach rather than a purely spiritual one at times. All of us have used our ideas about spirituality to dodge our weaknesses and fears. Religion becomes kind of a hideout instead of a path to growth. It might calm our anxieties for a little while, but long term, it holds us back. So it's important to consider the psychological side so that you don't twist spiritual truths into more self-deception. The more progress you make in dealing with your issues, the easier it becomes to look at spiritual truths more directly without fueling your urge to slip back into false religion. When that happens, real religion will grow from your own inner power and not from rules. It will arise from within you rather than from an outside authority you want to do the living for you. Finding your own strength and resources instead of waiting for some external being to grant them to you is not less divine. It's more so. Eventually you'll see, as I've come to understand, that these two sides, psychological and spiritual, are actually one and the same. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Love you. Connect soon.